After 3 years of a secret marriage while studying abroad, my husband brought a girl home. He said the girl was a good cook and would stay as our live-in housekeeper. But every time she cooked, Marcus would follow her in and lock the door, not allowing me to watch. 2 hours later, the dishes they brought out always lacked salt and vinegar. Chloe's fingertips would tremble, and her face would be flushed, while Marcus looked refreshed. I asked him why he wouldn't let me watch, and he said Chloe was shy. Shy about cooking? I finally couldn't help but install a hidden camera in the kitchen. What I saw, however, was them, naked and intertwined, on the marble countertop. I didn't cry or make a scene, I just reminded Marcus to attend the wedding on time. I was going to give him a surprise on our wedding day. When I found Marcus with the wedding planner notebook, he was surrounded by designers, picking out an evening dress for Chloe's welcome party. I stood outside the door, watching him adjust Chloe's skirt. The smile on his lips and the tenderness in his eyes were things I'd chased for 8 years but never managed to get. Marcus once shielded me from a steel pipe with his bare hands, his palm pierced. From that day on, I became his constant shadow. 3 years ago, during the internal strife of the Hayes, I forced him to marry me, using my father's influence to help him regain control of Hayes. The price was that he had to marry me. This caused his idealized first love to be heartbroken and choose to move away after marriage. From then on, his gaze toward me held nothing but disgust. Eventually, he even fled abroad just to avoid me. Pulling my gaze away, I raised my hand and knocked on the door. Seeing it was me, his brows furrowed slightly, and the warmth in his eyes instantly vanished, replaced by suppressed annoyance. Something wrong? I suppressed the bitterness in my throat and handed over the planner, my voice almost imperceptible. I need your signature. He didn't even look at it, flipping directly to the last page and signing his name with quick, decisive movements, as if eager to get rid of something. All right, you can leave. He casually tossed the document back to me, his gaze already returning to Chloe, as tender as before. I looked down at the planner, where divorce agreement was clearly marked. He signed it without even reading the contents. Just like our marriage, he had never truly cared about it. I gently closed the door and turned to leave. The hallway lights stung my eyes, but I couldn't shed a single tear. It turns out that when the pain is too extreme, you can't cry. Night soon fell. I stood in the corner of the banquet hall, watching Marcus slowly descend the spiral staircase, holding Chloe's hand. Thank you all for attending my welcome party. This is my companion, Chloe. Marcus's deep voice resonated through the microphone, his arm constantly around Chloe's waist. Guests raised their glasses in celebration, and amidst the toasts and mingling, no one noticed me standing in the corner. Even fewer knew that I was his legal wife. 8 years, from 20 to 28, I spent the best years of my life chasing after his shadow. 3 years of marriage, over 1,000 days and nights, I held on to that marriage certificate, believing that one day I could warm his heart. But at that moment, I knew I was wrong. It was time for this secret marriage to end. Divorce waiting period. Countdown, 1 month. Until our wedding. Also 1 month left. Countdown, 15 days. After the welcome party, Marcus never came back. On the trending topics, however, I saw their new updates every day. In today's trending photos, Chloe, in a red dress, was leaning in his arms, surrounded by roses, champagne, a melodious piano love song, and a romantic candlelight dinner. I'd chased him for 8 years, yet I'd never had a meal with him in a place like this. Suddenly, I remembered last year's birthday. I gathered my courage to book the same restaurant, but he complained I was being overly dramatic and fussy. Now I understood, it wasn't that he disliked romance, he just wasn't willing to give it to me. I slowly packed my bags to leave, and only after I finished, did I realize something. Over these past 3 years, I had left so few things in this house. Looking at the small box I had just found, it contained 74 round-trip tickets between Sterling City and Brightwood, Canada. Knowing didn't want to see me, I always secretly went to visit him. It was very cold in Brightwood, Canada, and I would always stand under the maple tree at the school gate, my visible breath blurring my vision. Sometimes, if I was lucky, I'd see him emerge from the library in a black overcoat. Other times, I'd wait until my legs went numb, only to watch the streetlights turn on one by one. Actually, I had seen Chloe before, and I knew Chloe missed his idealized first love very much. 7 months and 3 days after he went abroad, I first saw her. She flitted around him like a cheerful bird, her red scarf strikingly vivid against the snow. When he leaned in to listen to her speak, his eyes and brows held a tenderness I had never seen before. That day, I stood under the tree until the snow accumulation was above my ankles. After returning to the hotel, I had a high fever for 3 days, yet I still thought, at least someone could make him smile. How ridiculous. I collected his smiles like a stalker, yet I didn't even have the courage to openly say, "I miss you." Ding dong. My cell phone's notification sound interrupted my thoughts. It was Marcus. Wedding rehearsal today at 3 p.m., the manor. Looking at that message, I was surprised to feel no joy at all. It was clearly the wedding I had looked forward to for so long. I stared at the message for a long time, my fingertip hovering above the screen, before finally replying, "Okay. Let this 8-year unrequited love finally come to a not-so-perfect end with this rehearsal." At 3 p.m., I arrived at Sterling on time. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Marcus and Chloe standing side by side in the garden, sharing a pair of headphones, leaning intimately together as if listening to the same song. The sunlight shone upon them, they looked so beautiful. I had already decided not to love him anymore, yet my heart still felt a dull ache, as if someone had brutally clutched it, making even breathing difficult. Marcus took off his headphones. Seeing my pale face, his tone softened, a rare occurrence. "Chloe isn't blaming you for what happened the other day, so don't take it to heart." I paused, then suddenly felt it was laughable. So, in his eyes, the humiliation of that day was just a dismissive, "Don't take it to heart." Seeing I didn't speak, his brows furrowed, and his tone turned cold again. "I postponed a board meeting to be here for your rehearsal. Don't waste my time." He took Chloe's hand. "If you're not happy, then let Chloe take your place for the walkthrough." I looked at his fingers tightly clasping Chloe's, and suddenly felt utterly exhausted. "Fine, let her do it." I turned to leave, but he called out sharply, "Stop." He stared at me coldly. "You stand right here and watch carefully." Meeting his indifferent eyes, I only felt absurdity. "Marcus, I don't know why you hate me so much, but even if you do, there's no need to humiliate me again and again, is there? What do you take me for?" Marcus's eyes suppressed a surge of emotions. He didn't answer me, turning instead to instruct his subordinate. "Hold her down. She will watch today's rehearsal, whether she wants to or not." The dressing room door was ajar, and bursts of laughter floated out. "Miss looks stunning in this wedding gown. Mr. Marcus is truly blessed." The stylists and outfits that should have been mine were all given to another person now, and I was being held down on the ground in an utterly humiliating position. I watched him lead Chloe to the sea. Enter of the chapel, watched them exchange rings, watched them kiss under the pastor's witness. It wasn't until the rehearsal ended that they released me. The vast chapel was already empty, leaving only me slumped in a chair, my limbs numb, tears silently soaking my clothes. No one cared about my breakdown, just as no one had cared how humbly I had loved him for these past 8 years. The rain poured down, and I stumbled out of the manor. Rainwater streamed down my hair, blurring my vision. Seeing a car parked by the roadside, I instinctively reached for the car door. "Get out." Marcus's cold voice came from inside the car. "Aren't you always so strong-willed? Walk back by yourself." The engine roared, and the black sedan drove through the puddle, splashing dirty water all over me. I stood frozen, watching the taillights slowly blur in the rain, eventually disappearing from view. My chest felt as if a piece had been brutally gouged out, the howling cold wind poured in, chilling me to the bone. I wrapped my coat tightly around me, walking unsteadily. The strong winds almost knocked me over. Suddenly, my foot slipped, and I fell heavily into a puddle, muddy water stinging my nostrils. I remembered that year when I was 16, Marcus braved the heavy rain to bring me an umbrella. His eyes red, he scolded me, "Idiot, you forgot your umbrella again." When I finally returned home, looking disheveled, it was already late at night. The house was still empty. I forced myself to take a hot shower, and just as I was about to get my medicine, I blacked out and collapsed to the floor. When I opened my eyes again, I saw the hospital's stark white ceiling. My gaze shifted down, meeting Marcus's concerned eyes. For a moment, I almost thought I was back in the past. But then memories surged, his deliberate humiliation, his resolute back. A bitter wave churned in my chest, and I suddenly gagged. Marcus's expression stiffened, and his tone suppressed anger. "Grace, do you find me repulsive?" I didn't answer, just silently closed my eyes. Seeing I ignored him, Marcus no longer bothered himself, slamming the door shut as he left in a huff. I had been weak since childhood, so the doctor advised me to stay in the hospital for a few more days of observation. 8th day of hospitalization. Also the last 5 days of the divorce waiting period. That day, Marcus came again. He stood by the hospital bed, dressed in a sharp suit, his expression calm, as if discussing a business deal. You'll concede the latest project to Chloe. Before I could respond, he added. She has no one to rely on here. I registered a company for her, and she needs this project. I quietly watched him, suddenly finding it somewhat laughable. Of course, I'll compensate you. His tone softened, as if he were granting a favor. Haven't you always wanted me to accompany you on your honeymoon? I can set aside a month. Compensation and demands, like a thin thread, barely maintained our crumbling relationship. Okay. I nodded, not even asking another question. Anyway, I was going abroad soon, and a domestic project would be useless. After this, they would be even. If he knew that I even gave the wedding to Chloe, he would probably be very happy, wouldn't he? Seeing how readily I agreed, Marcus was slightly taken aback. He was right, in the past, I would have questioned him with red-rimmed eyes. Are you in love with her? But now, I no longer needed an answer. After a long silence, he looked at me again, speaking uncertainly. Are you really willing? I nodded calmly, not even raising my eyes to look at him. Marcus began to feel uncomfortable. After a moment, he spoke again, his voice softer than before. The wedding is in 5 days. I will invite all the dignitaries of Sterling City and formally announce our relationship. He paused, as if trying to stir my anticipation. After the wedding, we'll go to Iceland to see the northern. Haven't you always wanted to go? I softly. Why hummed in affirmation, my gaze fixed on the swaying tree shadows outside the window. Anyway, in 5 days, this hospital bed would be empty. As for the wedding, the northern, the vows, they could all be for Chloe. I'm tired. I interrupted his unfinished plans, turning over to face away from him. The air froze for a moment. After a long while, a warm palm rested on my forehead. His touch was very light, as if checking if I was truly asleep. I heard an almost inaudible sigh. Then, his footsteps faded, and the moment the door closed, I opened my eyes, the tight grip on the covers slowly relaxing as tears silently fell. It's too late, Marcus. I'm already exhausted. I don't want to love you anymore. I'll never forget. 3 years ago, on the night he was going abroad, I hysterically asked why he didn't love me, why he wouldn't even pretend to love me. He would only tell me to calm down, making me seem even more like a crazy person. In truth, I never asked for much, not even a perfunctory response. But he wasn't even willing to give me that small bit of charity. But now, and in the future, I no longer need his response. Divorce countdown, 12 hours. Without knowledge, I completed my hospital discharge procedures and booked a flight abroad. After picking up the luggage I had deposited earlier, I arrived at the departure lounge. With 6 hours left on the countdown, I opened the journal that recorded my story with Marcus, tearing out each page as I read it. With 4 hours left on the countdown, I deleted all photos related to him. With 2 hours left on the countdown, I cancelled all my contact information and got a new SIM card. The moment the countdown hit 0, a staff member reminded me that I could board the plane. I picked up my carry-on suitcase, just about to leave. Then I heard a roar. Grace, where are you going? I turned around and saw Marcus being held back by security guards beyond the security line. His tie was askew, his eyes bloodshot, and he looked utterly disheveled. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he frantically pulled out his cell phone from his inner jacket pocket. His trembling fingers swiped open the contacts, stopping on a number he hadn't dialed in a long time. Beep-e-beep, a long busy signal rang, then was mercilessly cut off by a female voice devoid of any emotion. The user you are trying to reach is temporarily unavailable. Marcus stared intently at the cell phone screen, his knuckles white from gripping it so hard. He pressed the dial button again and again, as if possessed. The user you are trying to reach is temporarily unavailable. The user you. Finally, he let his hand drop in despair, and the cell phone clattered to the ground. The number that had always prioritized him had now blocked him. What was doing, what he was thinking in his heart, I didn't pay any attention. I turned and boarded the plane. Not until the plane took off. Reflected on the glass window was a relaxed smile I hadn't worn in 10 years. Marcus collapsed in front of the airport's floor-to-ceiling window, his knuckles pressed hard against the glass, watching helplessly as the flight carrying me soared into the sky. Grace. His voice was hoarse, as if ground by gravel. You liar. She had said it herself. Said she would cling to him for a lifetime, said she was willing to endure all his revenge. But after only 3 years, she just left without looking back. His chest heaved violently. He stared at the now empty runway, a furious rage churning in his eyes, one he hadn't even recognized himself. And deeper within, a faint, almost imperceptible trace of panic. Just then, my prearranged lawyer found Marcus. Mr. Marcus, hello. The lawyer professionally handed him a document. I am Mrs. Attorney. Here are your notarized divorce document and divorce certificate. Divorce? Marcus suddenly looked up, bloodshot eyes glaring. I never signed anything. He swept the documents aside, scattering papers across the floor. The lawyer calmly picked up the documents. This is my lawyer's license and your divorce certificate. You may check them yourself. As he spoke, the lawyer showed him his lawyer's license and the divorce certificate. Marcus's hands trembled as he took the divorce certificate. When he saw the official seal stamped on it, he completely broke down. Impossible. Grace loved me so much, how could she bear to leave me? The lawyer stood quietly aside. When's emotions had somewhat subsided, he took a letter from his briefcase. This is entrusted to me by Mississippi. Marcus's fingertips hovered in the air, as if reaching for a fragile dream. His fingers repeatedly drew back and then extended several times before he finally took the letter from the lawyer's hand. The familiar elegant handwriting on it stung his eyes. For his eyes he stared for a long time, finally making up his mind. Tear. Marcus slowly tore open the edge of the envelope. The moment the letter unfolded, Marcus seemed to see me standing before him, calmly explaining my reasons for leaving. Marcus, by the time you read this letter, I will have already left. I don't wish to tell you where I've gone, and I hope you won't disturb my new life. We've known each other for 8 years, yet you never trusted me. I explained that I never forced your idealized first love away. I haven't even met her. But you always refused to believe me. If you had just investigated, you would have found that your idealized first love chose to move away after marriage to a foreign country for money. But you didn't, you just abandoned and hurt me again and again. I loved you for 8 years, and my heart has been left riddled with scars by your hurts. Now I am utterly exhausted. Let it be. I don't love you anymore. I release you. Go find the person you love. Marcus's fingertips clutched the letter tightly as he read the words again and again. The thin paper trembled in his hands, making a faint rustling sound. Suddenly, a SW. EET taste surged in his throat. Cough, a mouthful of fresh blood spurted onto the pristine white letter, staining the resolute words a shocking red. His vision began to spin, and his ears buzzed, as if someone had brutally sucked all the air out of his surroundings. He stumbled, trying to grasp something, but figures in armchairs twisted and dissolved before his eyes, turning into quicksand that slipped through his fingers. His legs gave out, and he fell heavily to his knees. His world plunged into complete darkness. Someone fainted. Call an ambulance quickly. When he woke again, he ripped the 4-drip needle from the back of his hand, oblivious to the blood trailing down his wrist. Investigate. He grabbed his assistant, who had rushed over at the sound, his voice terrifyingly hoarse. Immediately find out Grace's whereabouts. Where she is now, where she's staying, what her contact information is. I want to know everything within half an hour. The assistant recoiled half a step, startled by the ferocity in his eyes. Mr. Marcus, your hand is bleeding, investigate. Marcus roared. Yes, yes. The assistant quickly responded. I'll go investigate immediately. Half an hour later, the assistant returned to report. Miss seems to have gone to Iceland. Iceland, Marcus's tone was urgent. Prepare the plane. I need to fly to Iceland immediately. Mr. Marcus, you have an important meeting tomorrow, cancel it. Cancel all my appointments. He walked out in his hospital gown, making calls as he went. Prepare the private jet. I'm flying to Iceland tonight. No, I need to go now. After hanging up the phone, Marcus still couldn't control his emotions. In truth, he had always known the truth. But he preferred to believe that Grace was the one who tore him and his idealized first love apart. He also didn't dare to admit that the person who once said they would wait for him forever could leave without looking back for the sake of a check. He didn't dare to think abo. The past 8 years, what state of mind I was in, swallowing the injustices he inflicted again and again, and having to pretend I didn't care. It turned out that the most cowardly person had always been himself. And now, only one frantic thought remained in his mind: bring her back. I have to bring her back. At that very moment, I was waking up from a dream in another hemisphere. The morning light in Iceland filtered through the sheer curtains, casting dappled light onto the hardwood floor. I stretched, feeling a lightness I had never known before. Yesterday, right after arriving in Iceland, I was lucky enough to see the northern emerald green curtains of light float across the night sky, mesmerizingly beautiful. 8 years of pent-up feelings seemed to be washed away little by these beautiful sights. Just as I was about to get up, a force suddenly pulled me back into the down comforter. It's only 7. A low, lazy male voice sounded in my ear. Go back to sleep. I stiffened, then sharply turned my head. Close by was a face both familiar and striking. Amber pupils reflected the morning light, his features handsome, his peach blossom eyes holding a hint of a smile, making him even more handsome than Marcus. Ah! I gasped, abruptly pushing him away. Who are you? What are you doing in my bed? The man lazily propped himself up, the silk covers slipping to his waist, revealing well-defined abdominal muscles. He unhurriedly rubbed his shoulder, which I had pushed red, then suddenly let out a soft chuckle. Grace, you don't even recognize me? Also, just your bed? Are you sure? I examined him carefully, then spoke uncertainly. Ethan? You've become so handsome? Without waiting for his answer, I jumped out of bed and looked around. This wasn't the large ocean view room I'd booked, but an extremely luxurious presidential suite. I drank too much last night. I absurdly walked into the wrong room. Remember now? Ethan leaned against the door frame, watching me with a hint of a smile. I forced myself to calm down. Nothing happened anyway. I slept with you, and you slept with me. We're even. Even? Ethan chuckled softly, then suddenly pulled open the collar of his robe. The moment you came in, you treated me like a pillow, hugging and kissing me. He pointed to a few suspicious red marks on his chest. You touched all over me last night. You need to take responsibility. He suddenly came closer, the scent of cedarwood washing over me, making me recoil. You, don't come so close. I'm very sorry about last night. If there's anything you need, I can compensate you. Having said that, I was ready to make a quick escape. Ethan, however, suddenly blocked my path, his gaze burning as he looked at me. You know I lack nothing except a wife. How about you pledge yourself to me? I froze for a moment, then said angrily. If you keep teasing me, I'll get angry. Ethan's smile faded, his gaze so intense it made my heart tremble. I'm not joking. Grace, I've liked you for 13 whole years. Haven't you noticed it all? I suddenly remembered all the times we were at loggerheads in high school. He intentionally turned in blank test papers to lower his average, just to tie with me for second place in the grade. He wouldn't give an inch during debates, yet secretly slipped throat lozenges into my drawer after the matches. We had been friends since kindergarten, growing up as childhood sweethearts. Until saved me. After that, I followed Marcus to Sterling City for school, and eventually even married him. From then on, Ethan and I lost all contact. Thinking about it, I suddenly felt my ears burning and quickly spoke to cover it up. I'm sorry, I don't have any plans to date right now. Ethan chuckled softly. I've waited 13 years for you, what's a few more years? You can reject me. He stepped forward, trapping me between the doorframe and his body. But you can't deprive me of the chance to pursue you. I opened my mouth, but couldn't think of anything to say in rebuttal, and finally had to flee in embarrassment. An hour later, I changed clothes and got ready to go eat. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Ethan leaning idly against the opposite wall. What a coincidence. He straightened up with a smile. Care to eat together? I was about to refuse, but Ethan already spoke first. We're both going to the restaurant, and it's the same way. You can't exactly kick me out, can you? Feeling helpless, I could only tacitly agree to his company. On the soft sandy beach, we left 2 sets of footprints, one deep and one light. The playful sea breeze tangled my long hair, and a few strands of hair clung to the corner of my eye, tickling me. Just as I was about to raise my hand to brush them away, Ethan leaned in. Don't move. His warm fingertips gently brushed my eyelashes, as carefully as if handling fragile glass. I instinctively held my breath. The cedarwood scent on him, mixed with the salty sea breeze, inexplicably made my heart race. Just at this ambiguous moment, a furious roar suddenly came from behind us. What are you doing? I turned around and saw Marcus standing not far away. I hadn't seen him in a day, and he looked much more haggard, with stubble on his chin and bloodshot eyes. The person I thought I'd never see again suddenly appeared before me. Strangely, all the agonizing pain I once felt now receded like a tide, vanishing without a trace. Grace, his voice was hoarse as he trembled and took a step forward. I finally found you. His gaze was as if he were looking at a lost and found treasure. Ethan reacted swiftly, pulling me into his arms, his tone provocative. Mr. Marcus, you've come at an inconvenient time. My wife and I are just about to head out. Ethan's clear voice carried a hint of coldness, and his other hand shielded me, forming an invisible barrier. Marcus then noticed the man before him, and a sense of unease suddenly rose within him. The man was wearing only a thin white shirt, yet he exuded a distant warmth like winter sunlight, and was as remote and unattainable as an autumn night star. On that almost perfect face, his eyes were so cold they could freeze frost. Who is he? Marcus stared intently at me, his voice trembling with disbelief. Who is he? Marcus stared intently at me, his voice trembling with disbelief. Ethan's lips curled into a slight smile as he answered for me. I'm Grace's fiancé. Seeing was deliberately teasing him, Marcus simply stopped looking at him, stubbornly extending his hand toward me. Grace, come home with me. I looked at Marcus indifferently, my tone without a hint of emotion. Just leave. Don't disturb me anymore. Marcus, however, was relentless. He took a sudden step forward, explaining urgently. I've found out everything. Audrey left for money, and Chloe has been framing you. I've locked her up. Come back with me, you can retaliate against her however you want. If you want the project, I've already secured it for you. I've been looking for you all these days. I know I was wrong. Please, come back with me. We'll have our wedding once we're back in the country, and then wherever you want to go, I'll be with you, okay? Enough. I cut him off coldly. None of that matters anymore. All I wish for now is that you never appear before me again. His face instantly turned ashen. It's too late to say all this now, Marcus. I turned and linked my arm through Ethan's. Ethan, let's go. Just a small nickname, but Ethan was delighted for half the day. After dinner, we ran into Marcus again on the way back. He was still kneeling on the beach, like a frozen statue. For 3 years, you allowed others to slander her, trampling her sincere heart into the dirt. And now, a simple I'm sorry is supposed to erase all the past hurts? Mr. Marcus, you've got some nerve. Ethan stepped forward and threw out a seemingly ambiguous remark. It sounded like mockery, and yet also like he was telling him something important. Marcus's body trembled slightly, his pupils dilating violently. After a long while, he suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with hope. That's right. What was an empty apology worth? He would make Grace see. This time, he was willing to pay with his life to make amends. Having understood, Marcus shakily stood up, sand trickling from his suit trousers. The man who had always been so arrogant now had a hunched back, as if carrying a 1,000-pound burden. A week later, I suddenly received a call from my lawyer. He told me that Marcus had accidentally killed Chloe and was sentenced to the death penalty for deliberate murder. Before that, he had transferred 80% of His shares to my name and voluntarily gifted all his cash flow to me. That same day, a huge sum of money was also transferred to my bank account. I invested all of this money into the healthcare industry, hoping that fewer people would suffer from illness, allowing more people to live happier lives. After learned about this news, he transferred all his assets to my name that very day. The property deed, stock certificate, bank statement, he carried a large box, piling various documents onto my desk. Finally, he pulled out his ID card and placed it on top of the pile of documents. And this. In the sunlight, he smiled like a large dog asking for a treat. I'm yours too. In Iceland, the northern began to flow across the night sky. Ethan and I chose this most beautiful season for our wedding. Only later did I learn that this seemingly spontaneous proposal had actually been premeditated for a long time. Every detail of the wedding venue had been personally designed by him over the past 3 years. From the aisle covered in glacier roses to every napkin. Even every name on the guest list had been meticulously considered by him. So you were planning this all along? I touched his yellowed wedding planner notebook. The earliest date marked in it was surprising. Why the winter before we reconnected? He smiled and kissed the ring on my ring finger. When it comes to poaching a partner, you certainly need to be well prepared. That day, the cathedral bells rang out, echoing through the sky. Blessings from all over the world fell upon our shoulders like snowflakes. For the past 8 years, I had always held on to Marcus's blood-stained hand, pierced by rebar, as my sole obsession. I kept running after that sliver of warmth, falling and getting covered in wounds, yet I forgot to look back. Behind me, there was always a young man, silently escorting me at a 5-step distance on the way home from school. Thankfully, now, for every 8 years of the rest of our lives, we can slowly make up for what we lost.